Hello and welcome to Teleislas News with the most important news of the day.
In search of the process of total vaccination for all inhabitants with an assessment of what is coming for the islands, the Secretary of Health, Julian Davis Robinson, explained several important points for the community to be informed.
The Secretary of Health announced that the vaccination process will continue in spite of not having achieved the 30,000 vaccinations during the mass vaccination day.
The vaccination process continues. We already have the unification of stages, and what is being done is an adjustment to the micro-planning with the IPS vaccination. We were aiming to administer the 30,000 doses this weekend, but unfortunately, except for the patients who have had COVID during these 3 months, the rest of the population did not attend the vaccination points.
The official also explained how the process of home vaccination will be carried out.
What we are going to do is to establish the same vaccination points that the Social State Enterprise has been managing, and in coordination with the Social Development Secretariat. We will look for disabled patients and begin to sweep by sectors, for which we have a meeting tomorrow with the Social State Enterprise and the immunization team of the Health Secretariat to schedule the micro-programming that will be announced.
The Secretary also added,
I believe that we are going to achieve the goal of collective herd immunity, that after applying the second doses, we will achieve it by August.
Finally, the Secretary of Health gave a report on the occupancy of COVID ICU beds on the island.
The contagion curve has a slight downward trend, but this is not an excuse for us to lift or loosen the measures, because we have to maintain them at 100%. We have the occupancy of ICU beds at 62%, which means that out of the 21 beds available, we have 13 occupied at the moment.
The Minister of Health and Social Protection referred to the country's concern for the probable arrival of the COVID-19 Delta variant in Colombian territory.
The COVID-19 variant Delta, detected for the first time in India in October 2020, has been detected in more than 92 countries, including Mexico, Peru, Argentina, and some Caribbean countries. Faced with this scenario, the Ministry of Health and Social Protection, Fernando Ruiz, explained that it is inevitable that the strain would eventually reach Colombia through one of the country's departments.
Nosotros sabemos que ya hay lugares de Latinoamérica y el Caribe.
We know that there are places in Latin America and the Caribbean where this variable has already been evidenced. It is practically inevitable that it will reach us. That is a reality, to the extent that it is practically impossible to stop the spread. The Brazilian strain is already reaching us. We have the alpha and beta variable and practically all the lineages. We are preparing ourselves with the genomic study being conducted by the National Institute of Health, where it is thoroughly reviewing the cases that occurred, looking for the arrival of this variant. In this way, we can better prepare for any eventualities.
The minister indicated that currently the Delta variant has not been detected in the country, but vaccination against COVID-19 is progressing well, which means that there will be greater protection against mortality due to different variants.
The National Department of Planning is working in the islands on Sisben 4 and public transport management. Daniel Gomez Gaviria, Deputy Director of the DNP, shares about the importance of the actions carried out by the entity.
The National Planning Department is taking action and thinking about strategies to facilitate and improve the quality of life of islanders in the department through the Sisben and also through public transportation.
El Sisben 4, al igual que en el resto del
Sisben 4, as in the rest of the country, will be a fundamental tool in San Andres Islands to locate those people living in extreme poverty and to reach them with all the necessary information, and to be able to reach them with all the social offerings of the government, including those programs of the DNP, Familias en Acción, Jóvenes en Acción, health education programs of all the 18 entities that use the Sisben to target and identify households that really need support.
Since 2014, the National Planning Department has been working on projects to modernize mobility in the department, built on several premises.
Uno, tener una movilidad eléctrica.
to have an electric, clean and environmentally sustainable mobility, to have a mobility that is pleasant and functional for Raizals, islanders and also for tourists. With this plan, we seek to modernize the infrastructure, modernize the vehicles fleet, modernize the service and seek ways to finance what is being done with the state.
These are new projects that are being structured with the departmental government on the island, and they're also looking for the community residents to be able to participate in this initiative.
And the meetings of the Raizal roundtable are progressing. The objective is to define specific points of the Raizal statute.
On this day and in the midst of the progress that the Raizal table is making, it is also worth mentioning that 85% progress has already been made in all the topics discussed in this space.
Today we are dealing with in the Raizal statute, we are dealing with development, and basically development in respect to the Raizal people. And this, so far we are like 85% of the Raizal statute agreed. We have consensus in the majority of the different chapters.
Regarding progress made on other topics discussed during this meeting, the president of the Raizal Authority mentioned the following.
What is lacking is like articles and paragraphs that is yet to be agreed on, and for that we are meeting today with some articles pending, not much of them, and so tomorrow we'll be talking about youth and sex and gender, and the other articles and maybe the way it is designed for final agreement, mutual agreement with the government and the Raizal Council as we construct together this Raizal statute, which is basically a tool for our protection, perseverance, and our development and permanence on these territories.
It is expected that by this Saturday, discussion on the topic's purpose at the Raizal roundtable will be concluded.
From the fire station to the Fishermen's Cooperative, the community of Old Providence marched for the second time this year, seeking to improve their living conditions after Hurricane Iota.
Some with Old Providence flags, others with banners, some on motorcycles and some on foot, but all with the conviction that they are marching to improve their living condition and those of the island. Teleislas News was at the March for Dignity, and this is what the participant had to say.
Today we participate in the march to raise up our dignity, to help our community. We're only working for the community.
For all the people in Providence who are still living in tents.
Because of all the corruption that governs us in this country. This is a dictatorship. This is not a government. We continue in the struggle, down with corruption, down with ineptitude. We are going forward and we are going to change Providencia with ideas.
We're not receiving humanitarian help as we're supposed to. There's so many people outside of the island that the government is not helping in any way. That we do not have a dignified place where to live with our kids being exposed physically and mentally. We march for that and many other things, plus not having support from the local government.
Really, the government of Colombia failed us. We passing a lot of moment, good amount of months since the hurricane. The reconstruction of the island went very slow. So we're doing at the hospital. A lot of people, they wet up because they don't build the house they made.
On the other hand, the mayor gave a statement in which he expressed respect for peaceful protests, but did not share the reasons for the march.
Considero que no podemos estigmatizar.
I believe that we cannot stigmatize a reconstruction process as complex as the one we are living today in Old Providence. As inhabitants of Old Providence, we cannot ignore the commitment of the national government in this reconstruction process.
And the Municipal Tourism Secretariat also attended the ANATO Tourism Showcase in preparation for the reopening of the island.
In recent days, the Municipal Secretariat of Tourism joined the more than 700 exhibitors who were present at the ANATO Tourism Showcase. Although there is no date for the reopening of the municipality to tourism, this year ANATO was used to highlight that the islands are still relevant.
Nos estamos preparando para un nuevo renacer.
We are preparing for a new rebirth in which everyone will be able to be part of our history by practicing community tourism and with purpose, hand in hand with the Raizal community, where they can contribute to the recovery activities for tourist attractions such as reforestation, underwater, and land cleanups.
The tourist destination will continue to be promoted with the help of the Deputy Minister of Tourism and Frontier.
We will continue working on competitiveness and infrastructure projects and tourism promotion so that when the conditions for the reopening are right, it will be done in a very visible way at a national and international level.
On the other hand, through an open survey, the community confirmed that they are still not prepared for the reception of tourists.
It is concluded in a concerted manner with tourism providers and the community that it is not the moment to receive tourism until the conditions of infrastructure and tourism equipment are in place.
It is expected that the tourism economic reactivation take place between the end of this year and the beginning of the next.
And in our Community Chronicle, we'll get to know the Odyssey that year after year, the inhabitants of one of the sectors of the island lives, that whenever the winter season arrives, they suffer losses to their belongings because of the rain.
For some inhabitants of San Andres, the rains do not represent danger, but for the inhabitants of the lower back road sector, it means facing a new flood, where the water leaves them with no possibility of getting out and ruins their furniture and appliances.
Yo he perdido todo.
I have lost everything: beds, mattresses, furniture, clothes. I have been begging for clothes at different stores. Those walls that you see there, we were so happy because we thought that the water would not rise above it, but the water is coming through. Can you imagine that? I have lost refrigerators, furniture, and mattresses. Technically, I have lost everything. Where are we going to put it? Yes, it is sad, painful. Painful to know that one loses and then dented things come out. I feel pain and sadness.
Floods in this sector of the island are repeated year after year, and the authorities do not establish a plan to prevent the recurrence of these floods. Last November 2020, the former Deputy Minister of the Interior and new Colombian ambassador to the UN, Alicia Arango, visited the sector where she listened to the citizens, but today there have been no changes.
¿Qué hago? Comienzo a estar comprando bolsas.
What do I do? I start buying bags to put all my clothes in. Everything is lost. The mattresses are piled up in a cabin I have there, and I put everything in there, and I go upstairs where my daughter lives to wait for the water to come out.
Cuando sé que va a llover,
when I know that it is going to rain, I start crying. I start begging my God. I know that these are blessings that God sends us, but not like this. The losses that we have had, not like this. What we ask the government to do is to solve the problem of this water. What we want is that they help us with the water issue, that they find a way to get it out quickly.
The inhabitants of the lower part of the back road have the desire to one day hear the sound of the rain without the fear of losing everything.